Ben Parker was once your average person working for the Daily Bugle, though he wasn't the best at it. His family was exceedingly rich, so he didn't really pay attention at his work, or really help that much. But it would all change one day when he got bitten by a spider, carrying an alien device called the Omnitrix, which was sent down to Earth by an inventor named Azimuth. He'd accidentally sent down the watch to Earth when trying to keep it away from evil forces. It had landed, and it would take over a biological being and give them the powers to transform parts of their body at a time into alien forms. 23 to be exact. It first landed on the spider, which was being genetically modified at a place called Alchemax. Now, at first, this didn't affect Ben in the slightest. When the spider escaped, now mutated from both the experiments and the device, and bit Peter, the device was lodged into his chest, and he discovered he could use it to channel the energy for himself, and, as previously said, change parts of his body, whilst also using spider-like abilities to climb up walls, shoot webs, and sense things around him. For the first year or so after gaining his abilities, he mainly just used them to show off at parties. But a year later, when his Uncle Max got killed in a robbery gone wrong, he realised the extent of his powers, how much responsibility came with them. He had to be a hero to protect others from going down the same fate that his grandfather did. He would use these abilities to fight off crime from then on. He wouldn't see that many supervillains in his first year either, mainly just fighting off street-level crooks, but they would eventually appear, and he'd be in a tough situation with them a lot later. While fighting off the Forever Kingpin, along with some of his other villains, it teleports him via a massive portal into a new reality with sci-fi-like ships and multiple planets. So he realises he needs to hunt down all the villains that were also sent through the portal before they can do chaos to this other world like they were doing to his. Luckily, there were other heroes in his world as well. Ben had met that would help defend it whilst he was gone. For example, a hero who went by the name of Gwen Stark. But he didn't want them to ruin this reality. He would do his best to protect it, along with his 23 alien powers. And he would become known as the 23rd Spider. Khyven's family is an odd one to say the least. They were an alien species that came down to Earth, knowing that one day the Omnitrix would be sent there. Nobody knows how they knew this though. And Khyven, as said, would be the one who eventually was there when Omnitrix was taken. But he would have an extra leg up that other people in his family wouldn't have had. You see, he loved the hunt. Like most of his family, he would go out hunting new wild creatures, supernatural creatures even, just to push himself and challenge himself even more, seeing it as his duty to prove himself by taking out some of the most powerful and rare creatures on Earth. This is what led him to go to a supernatural person, a shaman or so, you might say. And he asked them to give him something to help him on his hunts, no matter the price. He didn't know what the price was going to be, and he may never actually know. What he was gifted was a supernatural creature, a dog-like being that could help him out on his hunts, as well as point out where the next creature for him to hunt would be. He would eventually come to calling the creature Zed, and it would be the only wild creature he ever came across that he wouldn't kill. He'd originally wanted to chase down the spider who had gotten the Omnitrix, as hunting down creatures was something he did a lot more often than humans. In fact, he'd never hunted a human before. When he learned that Ben had gotten access to the Omnitrix, he was appalled. The Omnitrix was meant to pick someone worthy of it, and he thought this youngling, as he called him, was not worthy of it in the slightest. So, going against his instincts of hunting creatures, he went to hunt down Ben Parker. Ben started going after this villain first when he arrived in this new dimension, mainly because he knew it was one who posed the biggest threat out of all of them, as if he hunted down any of the alien species that Ben had encountered in his time on this Earth, he knew it could destroy the ecosystem. At first, Ben wanted to go find whatever, alternate version of himself he would find here, as some of the heroes in his world had gone to alternate universes and had found alternate versions of himself. He eventually went to Earth to try and find them, but realised that this universe's Ben, known as Ben Tennyson, actually arrived on a different planet, Primus. You see, this universe's Azimuth, the being who had given Ben his Omnitrix, wasn't as benevolent as the one in Ben's world, and he had forced this Ben's bloodline to have the Omnitrix as part of his sick experiments. Ben was appalled by this version of him, and was even more worried that it might share some truth with the Azimuth from his world, though he eventually didn't think this would be the case. It mentioned that 90% of the people on Primus had unknowingly been working for Azimuth, helping fuel his sadistic experiments. Azimuth may have been the greatest threat to this world, but that might not sustain for long, so Ben needed to start looking for other heroes who had been sent here, but unfortunately there was only one, Kevin Morales. Kevin Morales had originally been a thief pickpocket, but Ben had tried to get down and arrest. Unfortunately, Kevin had been born with a mysterious mutation at birth that gave him unusual powers. He was able to absorb energy from anything he touched and expel it as both blasts from his hands of blue energy and also shock directly into people to blast them back several meters. In the fight, when he had run out of energy, he tried absorbing some from Ben's Omnitrix. This went horribly wrong, and this was when he realised he could absorb DNA. A new, corrupted kind of Omnitrix appeared in his chest, and it started sparking with electricity. He too could now transform into 23 different aliens, though eventually, during the fight, the Omnitrix would corrupt and lock, and he could only access 11. He eventually fought Ben off, but after this fight realised he had gained another ability, invisibility, along with all of Ben's other spider-like abilities. And he eventually fought against the gang that he worked for, realising it wasn't the right path, and became the second spider to the city of New York that Ben wanted to protect. He would become known as Kevin Morales, aka the 11th Spider. Ben had eventually found out something about this universe's Ben Tennyson, something he would bring back to his own world, that when Azimuth sent down his experiments, as horrible as that person was in this reality, the experiments included an experiment known as the Biomnitrix, which allows Ben to fuse together his alien DNA. Now, this universe's Ben, the one we're talking about at the minute, could already transform parts of his body into different aliens at a time, and for short periods, multiple aliens. But he thought if he was able to fuse them together, surely that would make it more powerful, right? He began thinking about it, and was originally gonna go back to his world specifically to find it, as he knew that some places in this dimension had the abilities to go to other dimensions. It was heavily guarded technology, but he knew he had a good enough reason. However, he knew first he would have to track down some of the other villains that were sent here. There were two others, one of which being the High Octoride. You see, Dr. Otto Octavius had found a new element that was superconductive. He used it to power a new invention he made, a sort of suit that allowed him to control 4 tendrils from his back. Originally, they were just multiple metal coils and claws, but when he activated the element, it would power through them, creating electrical strands. He tried selling this to the military for their use, but in the pitch he was trying to do that in. It's safe to say he went a bit off of the rails. You see, the actual chemical element that he was using wasn't of Earth. That's why it was so rare. It had been transported to Earth by asteroids, and its superconductive nature meant it made him be sought out by an energy-hungry race of aliens. Nobody knows what they were actually called, but whatever they were, they corrupted his mind. The lightning coursing through his tentacles turned purple, and he was corrupted by this alien energy race. He became their new king, ruling over them from a distance, conversing with them via his tendrils. But this element was in limited amounts, and he knew that if he was ever going to bring his species down to Earth, he would need to take out their Earth's so-called greatest protector. The person he thought was Earth's greatest protector, the 23rd Spider, and his little ally, Kevin Morales. But it wouldn't be easy, and Ben knew that this villain would cause a threat to the new world he now protected, even if just for a short time.